It's a pretty picture. It's a pretty picture.
Those last one.
Okay, I guess we can start the recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
Very good. Thank you and welcome to our, I don't have that one in front of me, sorry. Our 2 o'clock working session, there we go, meeting for January 9th, 2023. Let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present and our executive management team. And so we are going to have a discussion on boards and commission appointment process. It came up last week that we had some boards and commission appointments that are happening, but they're going to be voted on. You know, they were on the consent agenda for tomorrow. And so we thought this would be a good time to talk about kind of the process that we go through. I think Mark was looking at what we were supposed to be doing or not doing from a legal perspective. So Scott, I don't know if you've got the list of additional boards and commissions too that we're going to need to look at in addition to the planning commission that we'll need to look at adjusting as well. So there's several topics that came up on boards and commissions that we thought we just wanted to have a session talking about. Commissioner French?
So are we going to talk about changing the process that we've used up to this point and stuff? And if so, what's wrong with the process we've been using up to this point?
I think we just want to inform on what the process is. And there was I believe Mr. Amacio was just talking about the process, and we just want to make sure that we're not, by all of us signing on to it, having a meeting without it. So that's why it came up from a legal perspective to make sure that we can still continue to do the process that we have done in the past.
So yes, because the process we've used in the past is not a vote. It's going through the interviews, and when all of us have completed the interview process and we're ready to move forward, then it's informing the clerk that we're ready to move forward. But I never interpreted that, and that's been the process we've had for as long as I've been here, I think, Gina, and stuff. So I guess I'm just wondering, what is it that doesn't work, or why is it that it wouldn't continue to work? Because it allows each of us our own time to interview, and if we feel like we've got to interview as a group, then we just say we're going to interview as a group. We've done that a couple times where we've met as a group and interviewed all the candidates at one time, or at one time. So I guess
we just have two new commissioners, and so we want to just make sure that we're bringing it up and everyone understands what the process has been and what we want the process to continue to be. And I just want to make sure that, like I said, I think there was a question, you know, are we, how we do the process just to make sure that we're not considered having it as making any decision, because that's my understanding too, is that we do this, we individually sign off. So let's just talk about the process that we currently are doing, and you know how we've gone through different interviews, because yes, we definitely have done a different process for different committees based on whether we felt like we needed to do an interview. Like the public facilities districts, we did interviews. Otherwise, you know, we go through this process. The 2 new commissioners, though, have not been through the process, but we're asking them to vote tomorrow on the consent agenda. So we wanted to make sure that they were fully aware of what the process is, and if they have any questions for the ones that we have coming up tomorrow, because they were not part of putting it on the agenda. So Gina, if you want to, I don't know if you're in the room, or if Scott, you want to just talk about what our process is and how we do it.
I will do my best, and then Gina can correct me, or one of the 3 existing commissioners can as well. So before before both Commissioner Waldrop and Commissioner Jordan had joined the board, I asked Gina to go back through and compile a list of all the boards and commissions that the commissioners appoint citizens to, which was different from what your boards and commissions that you actually serve on. And this kind of gave an overview of what the committee was, what the board was, what the constitution of the board was, how many members, whether it was by district or kind of at large. So that was for your reading pleasure, and I think there's 28 different boards, I believe, I'm looking at my page count here, that you appoint to. Through that process, we also identified there was, I think, 7 boards or commissions that had district-specific language in there that does need some changes by the board to constitute. One of your discussions this morning was the Plan Commission. I believe the Fair Advisory Board, the Parks Advisory Board, No Shooting Board, Veterans Advisory Board. Jeff, help me out here. Steering Committee of Elected Officials, which is by ILA, I believe, not by board action. And then it seems like was the Plan Commission the last one? Yeah. Okay, the Plan Commission. So there's 7 of them that do have to be considered by the board to change some of the district language right now. And very similar to the Plan Commission conversations, a lot of them were 2 per district and then 1 at large. Plan Commission has some very specific statutory language to follow. These are really, the other ones are really more, except for the Steering Committee of Elected Officials, they're really more at the board's desire on how you want to set them up. So that's just one thing to highlight. And I've asked Jeff to kind of track through to make sure that we get those in front of the board for your decisions and actions on. So as I understand the process that the board has went through in the past is, as there is a vacancy, the board asked Gina to send out place on our website a notice that there's a vacancy. And sometimes it'll have, depending on what the board wants to do, it'll have 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Sometimes it'll have open until filled. It's really what you all want to do. As applications come in, and we get a pretty decent amount of them, Gina puts a stack of the applicants out on the front counter, and with a sheet for each of you to review and determine on your own, do you want to do interviews, call them, it has all their contact information on it. And then the 3 board members previously would initial by one of the applicants. And if there were 2 initialed, then Gina would place it on the next consent agenda for action because they knew that there was 2 votes for it. So that's kind of the process that has went through in the past. Did I miss anything?
Yes, there's a whole nother process that we've used where we actually have the committee do the interview process for us because they have specific expectations that they want out of the committee members. I'm thinking community housing, and they will do the interview process, and then they will forward to us their recommendation that would either be supported by the board or supported by the director. And that would be the other way that we'd receive it. And if we agreed with it, we'd go ahead and make the appointment. If we didn't agree with it, then we'd either send it back to them to continue to advertise, or we might take it over. For as long as I've been here, I think there's been only once that we actually sent it back to them. Otherwise, we've accepted their recommendation because we figured they knew more about their board than we did. And that was the other process.
Sorry, I got 6 that you named off. We already talked about planning. It sounded like veteran services is already on the agenda that we were briefed on this morning.
Yes, that one is, and that one is recommended. It's at, Kat, is that 9 today or is that 7 today?
9.
It's at 9.
3 each.
9.
And it's 3 each. And Kat, what was the recommendation to go to? Stay at 9.
I think we decided to go to 2 each.
2 each and 1 at large, or just 2 each?
Yeah, I think it was 2 each and 1 at large.
So going to 11.
Yes.
And that was one, if I recall correctly, Kat, you had difficulty getting quorum.
Yes. Well, No, not at all. It's a small board and we only meet quarterly, so we never had any issues with quorum. We were just concerned that we didn't want it to be too big or too small. Adding the new district in.
So it's just, it would be adding 2 people. So the quorum would be whatever it is, half plus 1, or it depends on what the,
It would have to be 6.
as long as it's good. As long as she thinks she can get that. All right, so we talked about planning, veteran services, and then,
Fair Advisory Board?
oh, I got fair.
Yeah, which one's Jeff?
No
Parks,
shooting,
no shooting.
parks, planning commission, steering committee.
Isn't the
I only
steering
got 6
committee,
then.
There is only 6 on
Okay.
this list.
All right,
Okay, I miscounted. It was 6 then.
on the steering committee appointment, that's done by ILA, so I mean, we can't change that. We
Got
have to
all
go
the
back,
cities signing off.
all the community, all the jurisdictions
Yeah,
have to
I
sign
would-
off on changing that.
I'm touching that.
And I'm not sure why would we do that.
If we
So-
add to our, then everybody else is gonna wanna add as well.
Well,
We're
yeah,
talking
but,
about-
you know, ultimately, that is controlled by the Board of County Commissioners. I mean, quite frankly, under statute, if we wanted to get rid of the steering committee altogether, we could. So it's not statutorily required that we have a steering committee. We do that because we want to, include all the jurisdictions, including the small jurisdictions, to be part of that planning process. But there's no statutory requirement to do it because ultimately they have no authority. They just recommend to us.
So taking that one out, it's actually five committees or five boards and commissions that are currently constituted based on district-driven language.
You want to go through them quick?
So what are the 5 then? One
So
more
the
time.
first is the fair board.
Okay.
It's 8 members, 7 are voting. Currently, it's 2 from each district, and then the 7th is a non-voting youth member for each community. So that's a 2 per, currently 8, but actually, I guess only 7 vote. I don't know, this doesn't say where the 8th one comes from. Oh, I'm sorry, different columns. So 2 from each district, 1 at large, and then the 8th is the non-voting youth member. So is that one that you want to go to 1 each and have 2 at large? Assume you want to keep the youth member.
The youth member is to incorporate 4-H groups and all of those, ag groups that are,
FFA.
yeah.
I'd have to look at the county chapter on that, but are you looking for certain types of representation on that fair board? It looks like agricultural, commercial, like you're looking for a variety of people that have expertise in different areas, right, for the fair board?
Promotions, maintenance, development of the fairgrounds, those sort of things. That's kind of what the role is, and having those sort of background areas is what they're interested in fighting for it.
And Scott, on these boards, we can delay, as people, term off, then we can look at how we redo that. Unlike the planning commission, didn't we have to do that specifically right away and reconstitute it?
Correct. The Plan Commission statutorily, our legal team advised the board that it was essentially needed to start fresh, wipe the slate clean. The other ones, because they're established by the Board of County Commissioners, you can adopt the new approach once a vacancy occurs. But if you all know which direction you want to go right now, that's helpful. Then we can go through and get all the resolutions updated for you, and they're in place so that when a vacancy occurs, then we can, here's the process, here's the appointment process that gets followed.
So how has the fair board worked in the past? When you have an opening, you advertise, and then one of the commissioners moves a name forward, then
No, we go
Each
through the
appoints
same
2.
sign-up sheet. Then we interview individually, And then when we, hit white smoke, then we bring it forward and make a resolution.
Well, no, but it's by
But it says appoints.
district.
It is by district.
No, it's by so I'll give
The ones
an
that are by district,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, like about a year ago, somebody who was that I had appointed, their term expired. They didn't want reappointed, so we advertised it. We got a bundle of applications. I looked through those applications and then I said, I'm picking this person. And then that person went on the consent agenda and we all approved. But they did not have to live in my commissioner district. So they can live anywhere. Right. And honestly, that's one that is not always the easiest to find someone that wants to serve on it. It seems like it would be. It seems like the fair board would be but you gotta really twist some arms to get people to commit to serving on some of these boards. I mean, it really is the truth. It's not like you're gonna get flooded with applications for every single opening, unfortunately, so.
So what it does is with these particular boards, we're kind of whittling down to like
6.
but you take the steering committee out, you're just, it's the responsibility of that board of county commissioner member to do the interviews, look through the things, and then move forward someone for the full board to approve.
Consider, yeah.
Kind of just divides up the workload, so to speak, because they don't have to actually live in a district.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the ones that you appoint by district, the 5 or so that are by district. That would be another little nuance to the process because it's a district one that you're individually bringing forward as there's a vacancy for your district.
So to complicate this, so the no shooting is also by district, I believe,
But it does have a residency requirement.
and a residency requirement. And neither one of your districts allow for shooting.
All of them, like, yeah.
Well, I mean, they're
No.
two districts.
You're 100% correct. All of the areas that allow shooting are really on the outer rim
Unincorporated
of the
area.
county it's like quite a ways from anything either of you represent.
And it includes bow and arrow as well as gun.
Which means the challenge will be finding somebody in your district that wants to serve on the shooting commission when it doesn't affect anything in your district.
So maybe we should, is that one's not an RCW, right? That's driving
It's a
it.
code, yeah, correct.
Maybe we should just relook at that one. Maybe it should just be at large. I don't know. I mean, doesn't really.
Right now it's 2 per district with a 7 at large.
But I mean, we could change it all to be,
All at large.
I mean, I don't know.
Per district.
At a certain point, only people who are really interested in those particular areas are,
Going to apply.
yeah.
Correct. And we don't have to make a decision today. I think it just was with boards and commission appointments coming up on the agenda. We wanted to make sure that, we just bring, Scott had brought these things up to me. And so we just wanted to make sure that we had the discussion to start the process on them. So we're aware and can, we can bring it back in a week or two, or like Scott said, just so that as these terms expire and they come back before us, that we've got, kind of an idea of what we want to do and just kind of take a look at it from that perspective.
So then what's with parks and what is the,
Currently, there are
On to
2
parks.
by district, 1 at large, and 1 non-voting youth member appointed by the BOCC.
I think Doug likes the size of the 7, it's manageable. His preference would be to keep it at 7. I think he says the youth individuals, they've had a hard time filling their role in it. And I think it's been vacant for quite some time.
So I don't mean to be picking on your 2 districts, but because of the way the districting committee laid out the districts, neither one of your 2 districts has a county park in it.
I have Homburg Park.
and so the South Side complex isn't in my district? I thought it was.
Southside complex.
aquatic.
The swim center?
Is a swim center in your
It's,
district?
well, I was.
Do you
right
go out?
here
If it
when I was
is,
doorbelling.
Do you go outside the city limits on the south?
Oh, yeah,
I thought you only did
62nd.
on the north.
Right,
62nd.
there's a
Oh.
whole row of
North.
precincts across
Then
the
I
south.
stand
I didn't
corrected.
realize
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm sorry. I paid more attention to my district than I did yours.
I know,
Same here.
same here.
I have a big
I knew
map on my
mine very
wall.
well.
Yeah.
I was- Yeah, yeah. So I think they're right. Anyway, that one seems like one we could adjust, you know, to make it like 5 plus 2 at large or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. I think most of these we could probably just make some.
Fair board could probably do that, right? One for each district plus some other folks.
But maybe waiting until people come off, because you don't wanna
Did anybody ask Erin out at the
kick them
fair
off.
to
You're
say,
off.
does she,
It took so
did
long to
she
get
have a
involved.
preference on whether
Get on.
the fair board grew, shrunk, stayed the same? Did Erin
I
weigh in?
believe,
Do we know?
I believe I had a conversation with her, and I think the preference was this to keep it at 7.
Okay.
I'll confirm, but that's what my understanding was.
She said she had a problem with
Yeah,
attendance,
she
and if it gets bigger, it hits quorum issues if people aren't showing up. So that's why she wanted to keep it smaller.
Except one of my fair appointees also said they have struggled with quorum, and his recommendation was if we just kept it at 2 per district, adding 4 more may actually help, because you two may appoint 4 people that might actually show up.
I'm sure our people would be more likely to show up.
So I don't know, I wasn't sure if anybody had actually talked with Erin about that though, on the size, if she thought going too big would be troublesome or not.
And then when you do at-large appointments, then is there a stack of recommendations that come in and everyone kind of reviews them, interviews if they want?
Yep.
And then how do you
That's the only thing on the diets.
forward?
When there's more, then, now, it used to be 2, now it'll be 3. When 3 people agree that they've interviewed and they're ready to move these forward,
There was a sheet out there.
then the clerk prepares a resolution that comes before the board. The final action is not until the board votes.
Right.
Everything prior to that point is just process.
Gina's gonna go grab a sign-off sheet,
Yeah.
just so you see what they look like. It's laid out.
Does it ever work where maybe there's 2 people and, they're both qualified and would make, and you sign, okay, I'm fine with this person or this person, whoever ends up, can you sign by a couple different folks? Because sometimes you get 2 applicants, I don't know, that
You could,
are both
sure.
interested and.
Yeah, you could move more than one forward if
There's
you
2
wanted
of
to.
them.
So you have a name.
Okay.
It looks like, is that one, is the other one she gave you there, Chris, does that one have multiple candidates? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so you see when there's multiple, how it works, so.
How do they do it at the city for appointing?
Well, the city, the
Different.
mayor,
Mayor appoints
Recommends.
and then.
You have 2
Well,
branches
yeah,
of government.
and then
council
the council
confirms. But the council would do interviews if they felt like
Yeah.
they wanted to. We
Yeah.
would do interviews, but sometimes behind the scenes, there were conversations about, who
Yeah.
might be a stronger applicant. The idea is to try and, like you're saying, do it administratively because we want citizen board members. We want to welcome and want as many of them to apply as possible, and we don't want to be arguing about who's better, with their name in the public, because we're trying to get people to apply and wanting them to, to
Well,
be
and the
feeling
theory
free to
is that
apply.
you know more about the people in your district, and you can actually go out and recruit. So I mean, if there's a list that comes forward here, and somebody that maybe has got an expertise, and you want to have actually submit an application to the recruit and have them submit the application.
Well, and I think at the city, either the mayor or the city council members would go out and identify people that would be good and encourage them to apply.
Like, I remember one time we had, I wanna say this is 4 or 5 years ago, we had an opening on the Board of Equalization.
Yes.
And we had, that one, we got like 12 applicants, we
Yeah.
interviewed like 6 of them, and narrowed it down. And then within 6 months, we had another vacancy on there, and we got 1 applicant. And that was it. I mean, it's just, you just never know. when people are gonna apply. And I think we even reached out to a lot of, the 11 that had applied 6 months earlier to see, and like none of them wanted to apply anymore. And it's like,
I'm not gonna be your
Jeez.
second date.
yeah, it's strange that these boards really are something.
Yeah, or we had the Public Facilities District board member where we all had somebody different that we were choosing, and it, so it was at a stalemate till somebody moved. So, they can be interesting board placement.
That did happen. We had 3 applicants.
And everybody
all-
wanted
we
somebody
all-
different.
the three of
Okay.
us all had someone else.
Yeah.
And we did actually interview them in person, well, on Zoom with all 3 of us, doing it. So that was one that we chose to interview all 3 there. So I think, and Gina, you need to correct me if I'm wrong. I think for the appointments that are coming before us tomorrow, there is one that did not have 3 commissioners on it, and Al, that was the airport board, because I had chosen a different person than you and Josh.
Yeah, so Josh and I went through and we signed off on one individual. And so typically the pattern has been, once you get 2, then it moves forward. And so we operated under the assumption that, just like we've done in the past, that name would move forward and the board would take an action on it. And then Mary added another name to the list, and so that's how that 3rd name came to. And we will talk about that tomorrow before we vote on it.
Gina, was there one more that was there any more that didn't have 3 signatures on it? I was thinking there was one, but it was my cursory scan.
I think that was the Board of Equalization,
Board of Equalization?
which I have processed with all 5 signatures.
No. Oh, sorry, no.
Go ahead.
You go. No, I was gonna switch to another topic, but no, you keep going. I was just gonna say, Solid Waste Advisory Committee is by District 2, is it not? It's also by district, correct? Yeah, 1 citizen at large for each commissioner district. It's worded different, but so as of last year, there are 3 citizen, no, I take that back. There's more than 3 citizen representatives. There's 3 that are by commissioner district, and then there's others that are citizens that are specific to industry. But the ones that are by commissioner district, there's currently 3. We're gonna need to appoint 2 more to that. So, actually, we may.
Because it's 11 to 22 members. So I
Yes,
think,
yeah, it's a range.
I think you're right, Commissioner. I believe we didn't flag that to change because it wouldn't limit you. The other ones had 2 per district, and we wanted to try to keep them at 7. This one is a pretty large board.
Yep.
So you can easily just continue to follow the same code that you have
Okay,
for it.
but that's one they need to know about you
So
each.
you get a
Yeah, well, and actually, I think we're probably gonna have to look at the 3 citizens that are on and make sure they're still in.
Well, it says
My new
1
district
citizen
as
at
needed.
large for each commissioner district.
doesn't have to be
Yes.
So
any
if I
other-
read it out large, it makes me think you all can
Can
appoint
live
whoever you
anywhere.
want.
Really? Oh.
Doesn't
Is
have to
that
be in your
residency
district.
requirement?
Because they're always recognized as being from District 1, from District 2, from District 3, but maybe that's just, maybe we've
No.
been picking them from district even though we
So
don't
I'll
need
check
to.
on that.
I think you may be right, Commissioner.
Maybe
It
we've
does
just
say-
been doing that even if we don't have to.
It does say for each district.
Which board was that?
That was the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And I don't know, like my appointee, I don't even know if she's still, I don't know if she lives in my new district. I'm not sure. So,
Might have to get her moved back.
yeah.
Yeah, and I can even say who is appointed from my district on that, because I don't remember appointing someone, so it could be serving since pre-me.
So can I clarify, because I'm new, so, and I'll keep using that as long as it works.
As long as you get away with it.
So for the appointees that are designate it by district, we, as the district commissioner, basically pick someone. Do they get approved by the board on a consent agenda then?
Yes.
Okay, and if it's like an at-large or something, that's when it goes through this process. And typically you don't put it on the consent agenda until there's a majority signature, okay.
And with regard to the approval by the board, I can't remember it happening, but it could happen to where there's a conflict between who you pick and the system that they're supposed to be representing, for instance. So that would be the only time, and for as long as I've been here, we've never overruled an appointment.
So the at-large ones can be a little more difficult because it's more open-ended, right? So you could have like a race to
90%,
majority.
95% of them.
Yeah, for the most part, it's not,
unanimous.
yeah. So the airport one, that's on, it had 2 signatures, right? But it's on for tomorrow, just as an agenda.
Yes. So we're gonna vote on it tomorrow.
Or, I mean, the Collins is still there till the end of January, so we don't have to vote on it tomorrow. We could strike it. And if we feel like we want to do interviews, I mean, that's the process that we've done in the past.
Well, that's not the process we've done in the past. We've done the process in the past that way when we could not get to a majority. Here we've got 2 commissioners that did put forward a name. And of course, this was the end of December and stuff. The expectation was we were going to make the appointment in December so that the new person would be able to transition onto the board position. And that didn't happen as anticipated.
Okay.
We got a good groove. Let's deal with that one tomorrow. So,
Okay.
I think there's been discussion on all of these.
So I think fair board, Parks
Fair was
Advisory.
add for no shooting, look at possibly moving to at-large. Parks was go to 1 per with 2 at-large. Planning is in process. Steering, we weren't gonna touch for different reasons. And Veterans Advisory was looking at going to 2 each and 1 at-large. So I can, that sound good to you, Kat, for veterans?
That's what she said.
And we're good, I'll touch base with Aaron at the fair.
Okay.
On that one, and that can at least give we get some draft resolutions going for consideration.
We can bring it back in front of you.
So I want to circle back because I think, Amber, you suggested that for the no shooting, we just go 7 at large instead of by district.
I mean, do you get a lot of applicants? I'm assuming that's one that's tough to recruit for, but maybe I'm wrong.
We
The no
get,
shooting board.
we get applicants, but they're predominantly in the unincorporated area because there's where you get into the no shooting area.
they live sort of, a lot of them live
Right,
near
well,
that
so
boundary.
they have a
Vested
vested
interest.
interest in
One or the
yes
other.
or no.
Yeah. And there's some pro shooting and there's some anti-shooting and stuff, so it's a mixed bag, but
And the purpose of that board is to give recommendations to the county commissioners? Or do they actually have any authority to make decisions about?
they have to make a recommendation to the board for the board to act.
Okay,
Sometimes it's to take a parcel out of the shoot, and sometimes it's the other way. Someone is in the no shoot zone, but they border the shoot zone and they want to be put back in the, where shooting is permitted on their property. So it goes both directions. But honestly, it not a lot. I can't even remember the last time we've taken an action on. Yeah, it's been a while, so.
Yeah, so the committees that are coming up, then can we also get a list of who's on those committees and their terms so we know how quickly some of those terms are expiring
Yes.
for those 5? Thank you.
right, because once we hear back from the fair director and such, I mean, it makes sense to maybe, if we're gonna change the composition, wait till somebody
Phase
comes off and then, make the new, if we end up messing with the numbers at all. Let them serve
Yep.
till their term's up.
So, since we got a pause in the action here, I'm gonna make a suggestion for your consideration. I'm wondering if it might not be productive for us as a group to maybe just dedicate like a half day or one day, just a retreat, and, maybe even have it facilitated, and just kind of go through all of the different things that we're gonna have to deal with in terms of changes, so that instead of having to come back and piecemeal every one of these things every time they come up and stuff, we could just kind of do one day charrette and just say, okay, here's how we're going to function, so that one, it eliminates conjecture, it eliminates confusion, and we all have an opportunity to just say, okay, this is what I would like to see. I mean, the planning conversation was a really good one this morning and gave a different perspective in terms of how that conversation would work. And I'm just wondering if I'd be willing to dedicate half a day or a day just to kind of sit down and have somebody facilitate how we're gonna function in this new environment, because it's new to you, it's also new to us, because up until today, it was just two of us agree and you get white smoke and you move forward. And so just throw that out for your consideration. And we have had retreats before as a board, so this would not be unusual. It's just the topic that would be unusual. And we do it off-site, like we do it over the convention center, because it's a bigger room and we got electronics, but just it's a lot more casual to do that and kind of work your way through this stuff. Just throw it out for consideration.
And then a little homework can be done,
Mhm.
like talk to the
Yeah.
fair director, have that person maybe work with legal on a couple different options, and then we can
Yeah.
look at those and,
Yeah, and just talk about.
like,
how-
it looks like the Parks Advisory there is an RCW involved. So like, we just have to check that out and figure out what do we have to work within, kind of like with the Plan Commission situation.
Well, and as you saw with the planning commission, I mean, the RCWs with regard to the planning commission had one set of assumptions that didn't include what we are and stuff. So how do we want to navigate through that? I think, the solution we came up with is a solution. It's not the only solution, but maybe that gives us an environment that's maybe a little conducive to just having a conversation.
And it looks like the default is generally, although there's always exceptions to the rule, the way it has been is 2 per district plus a non-voting or a at-large or something like that to get to an odd number. So
Get
that's
to an
kind of
odd
the
number.
default.
Yeah.
And so we just need to think about, well, do we have a new default?
How about 3 per district? Then you get an odd number you can vote.
A lot of people.
It's a big board.
Well, and it's just like, every time we appoint a new person, that's work. So to think about at-large versus district appointments and the time it takes, and, we want fairness, but also ease for the citizens who are trying to apply to be on these boards, right? To make it a fair and easy process.
Well, and I think you're getting a good sense about how some of these things can be really time consuming. And I'm not sure that any of us ran for election so we could sit here and try and figure out how we're gonna do this stuff. We got other important stuff to take care of.
Well, I like the idea of picking another time when if some homework can be done, and then we could sit down and really go through each at least these 5 or 6, because you identified the SWAC, Commissioner Kern, so there's probably a few other that we missed in here maybe, so.
But there's other things that you might want to go through topic-wise.
Yeah.
That could be either just an open discussion or preparing for.
It'll give
It's
me
really
some
up to
time to
you.
look through these too and go, okay, and get familiarized myself, and then I can ask questions.
But you're talking also about like just functioning of the board in general and
Yeah, just
There
function.
may
of
be
the
more
board. I
than
mean,
just
norms.
these.
not just these, I'm just thinking about us as a board. I mean, You've got priorities that you want to see done. Amber's got priorities. We've got things we've been working on. How do we homogenize all of that kind of stuff so that, one, we're not stepping on each other, and two, we're not duplicating each other. I'll give you a great example. When I first joined the board back in 1824, they thought, hey, he's an architect. Let him deal with space planning. So I spent a year dealing with space planning here in the courthouse, only to find out at the end of the year that the existing board members, Mark Richard and Todd Milkey, had already adopted a space plan for the courthouse. And I just spent a year wasting my time because neither one of them told me, oh, guess what? We already have one of these. Well, there's a year of my life I'll never get back. Don't want to do that to you. I mean, if there's things that have happened and you want to change, great, let's have that conversation. If it's something you want to do and it hasn't been done, great, how do we support you? But that kind of conversation, just so that we can be more effective moving forward. Otherwise, we're going to bump into each other all the time.
I presume such a retreat is a public meeting, right?
It's still a public meeting, but quite frankly, the media doesn't show up. We talk about, and the last thing the newspaper wants to do is they want to sit here and listen to us talk about how we're going to make a decision. It's just, of all the retreats we've had, we've never had the media show up.
No, I'd be open to that. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Just kind of help us become efficient. If nothing else, so that we can understand.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great idea. I think that's one of the things that we need to do to kind of even just come up with some board norms. And as I've talked to other commissioners across the state, I mean, even current commissioner groups, that aren't changing do that. So I think it's a great idea. And I think trying to schedule it sooner than later would probably be good to have that and, let everybody participate in topic generation. And I think a facilitator is a great idea. So Al, do you have a facilitator in mind?
No, I don't. But I know some people that do, but there are a lot of people here in town that facilitate. So we can, Ashley can find somebody.
I can. I mean, if that's something you wanted to task me with. I also think we have some really good internal resources that we could tap on depending on what we wanted that conversation to look like. So I think there's a few of us sitting at this table that could help with that process.
So what would do the 5 commissioners want to send ideas into Gina and myself and then consolidate all those ideas and then in one of our upcoming work sessions settle on what your agenda you want to be, because each of you might have some different ideas on some stuff that you want to have in. I don't want to presume. I can guess on 4 or 5 or 6 of them, but I don't want to presume what they are. So it gives a chance for you all to kind of see what each other are thinking about, and then you determine collectively which ones you want to be on the agenda, because if we're going to commit a half day, it can't be 20 items.
Well, and the thing that we used to do, we haven't done it here lately, but the reason why we have meetings in the morning and the afternoon and morning on Tuesdays and the afternoon on Tuesdays is because in the morning we used to, and we haven't done this for years, we used to do prep for the agenda for Tuesday so that if staff needed to do anything, they had Monday afternoon and Tuesday morning. But then Monday afternoon, it was actually strategic planning. So it used to be executive session in the morning, strategic planning in the afternoon. And the strategic planning was talking about where we wanted to go as opposed to where we were at today. So it actually gave you an opportunity to talk about planning and strategizing about the future. And then, Tuesday mornings were last minute business items before the Tuesday agenda. Kind of like the study sessions we used to do at the city. So, I mean, there's opportunities for us to, there's nothing sacred about what we do or how we want to do it.
Okay, we'll send out a note to all of you, just looking for agenda items. Then once we've got some feedback on them, unless you want to decide today when you want that half-day retreat is. If you want to wait and see what the agenda items look like, then you could decide which ones you want to have on the agenda, and then we can set a meeting time. And it could be, to Commissioner French's point, it could be a Monday afternoon, one of your already existing times that doesn't have a full agenda already on there. Okay.
Sorry, I just thought that would be helpful.
Okay, so next on the agenda is Tony. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so I don't know if Tony's there.
He just walked in.
Oh, very
Just
good.
walking in, yes, walked out. And walking back in.
Goosebumps walk away.
What's that?
The
Yeah.
goosebumps walk away.
Okay,
You guys
and then
ready for
before you get started, Tony, I do have a hard stop at 3 o'clock your time, which is 6 o'clock my time so I would just ask if Commissioner French, the vice chair, can adjourn the meeting on my behalf.
Sure, you bet.
Thank you.
We'll be brief. Ron, got our slide deck up.
Maybe introduce yourself and Frank
Absolutely.
for the two new commissioners.
Our new commissioners. Hi, I'm Tony Hall. I have the purchasing and project management department. And we're here today to talk about environmental claims research, and Frank Cervantes is the project manager in charge of that. You guys will be seeing us periodically for updates on large countywide projects we have going on. So with this one in particular, just the roadmap that we are on, we hired a firm called Historical Research back midway through last year, and they're going through any environmental claim or environmental issue that we had that we paid money to clean up. They're going through that, specifically looking at the 80s through about 95 to see if we had an insurance claim that we can recoup some funds back for. So with that, we've gone through, we're between discovery and findings. So we've identified the sites that we want to look at. We have gathered all the information necessary. And now we're at a point where we need to submit insurance claims, and a bit of a rush, that's why we're in here today. The cutoff for one of the claims is 120, and we need a signatory on our behalf to sign these claims as we submit them. So this resolution that you guys will see next week is to authorize Steve Bartell in our risk management office to sign on behalf of you all for these insurance claims going forward for the life of the project. And just to clarify, this is not giving him authority for litigation or anything. It is just simply for the claim side of it. If there's ever any litigation, we would, of course, come back to all of you for direction. Anything to add?
And right now, we're in what's called, what do they call it, Task 1,
Yep.
according to Historical Research's roadmap. So basically, right now, we're just going to compile this list, and before we do any action, right, they're going to have a list of recommendations, and we go through a stage gate methodology here. So we're going to check in with our leadership team before we move on into knowing which claims we're going to pursue. So this is more of a, can we expedite some of these things to keep things moving so that we can get to a better resolution for what this company's recommendation is as to what claims we pursue.
Any questions for us? That's pretty much our slideshow.
Could you just give a quick overview, Tony and Frank, on kind of the recovery mechanism in terms of this is kind of a no risk sort of thing, the work is on them, and if they find something, how does that sharing take place?
Yep, so the fee structure for this is a 10% commission. So there's no cost for us unless we are able to recoup funds from this project. And if we are, the firm that we go with takes a 10% cut of whatever we are able to claim.
So Tony, I have a question. So have they been in and looking already?
Yep, we have an active team with Public Works, Jim Amacio, Mark McLean has been in a little bit as well. They've identified, I believe, our top 5 to 7 sites and they are gathering information.
Okay, so you have about 5 to 7 sites, and then this is the first one to move forward with?
So the one claim that has a deadline is the home insurance company.
Yeah.
And that is 2 of the sites that are under investigation. Those are they were covered by home insurance company, and it needs to be in by 120 or we're not able to place a claim at all.
And then is that because of how long ago how long we've had them?
That, and I believe they're just putting a cap on a date that you can submit claims for. You remember
Yeah,
the
for that
timeframe?
specific one, but I mean, to be honest, Historical and Jim really understand that part of it way better than Tony and I.
Yeah.
And Jim's been on the calls with every single call almost with us.
Yep.
So, I mean, we've been checking in with everybody as we go and given the opportunity to Jim or Steve to raise any flags before we proceed with anything. And we still have one pending, which is a Hartford.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the one that we're waiting for Jim to confirm.
Okay. Thank you.
One more clarification too, we will circle back with you guys whenever we do get the official findings and possible dollar amounts, all that fun stuff. So
Yeah,
this isn't delegating for Steve to sign absolutely everything. We will keep circling back with you as we get more.
This is more to
details.
keep us progressing on schedule. Basically, beginning of Q2 is when we're looking at having those recommendations, if possible, or at least a start.
Recommendations, which ones to pursue based
Correct.
on the validity of a potential to recover.
And strategy, because they do want to see the overall global picture and decide which ones they should pursue first as opposed to last.
Do you have anything, Steve?
Did you mention about the claim form at the bottom, kind of having a disclaimer that,
I didn't know.
yeah, there's a disclaimer at the bottom of the claim form, which is real nice, because one of the concerns we had was, you know, if you don't have facts to support your claim, it could be conceived as insurance fraud. But it said, you know, this is really only a bookmark, and there is no potential fraud for just putting us on notice of a potential claim, which was huge.
Yeah, and I found it here, Steve. So you should complete and send this form if you believe you have an actual or potential claim against the home, even if the amount of the claim is presently uncertain.
Commissioner French?
So is the work that this group is doing, let's say that, you know, there's not a lot of money that we can recover from the insurance company, or maybe there's a ton of money we can recover. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be enough money to clean up the site and stuff. So, but would this work then provide us the foundation to go after brownfield reclamation money?
Yep. Within the scope, we do have a site that we would be taking that strategy on. Yep.
Terrific. Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
And I am going to be logging off at this point, so Commissioner French, I'll let you take over the meeting.
Very good. Thank you. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Sparber.
Fantastic. I'm just circling back with you on the NAFCare contract. Just a little bit of history. In 2017, we went to contracted medical services because we're having such a challenge trying to get FTEs and recruit nurses and so forth. So NAFCare has been on since 2017. In July of this year, they lost a settlement for an in-custody death for $26.5 million. After which point they sent us a letter and said that they wanted to increase their level of service for us in reviewing it. I couldn't, it was kind of a challenge because the guy who negotiated is an attorney. So I had to go through the attorneys to have him talk to him. But at the end of the day, it's about $354,000 increase. And then what I asked him to do was to go back and see difference between the mental health services and medical services. And when they did, we found out we could actually cover the medical services for $505,000 or and $5,000, and then it would actually net us $150,000 savings on the general fund. So, long story short, they kind of got us over a barrel. It's a 90-day out. It takes probably take the better part of a year for us to go through an RFP process and make a selection on moving forward. And so I'm open for questions. If you guys have any.
Any questions for Mike?
Sorry, can you recap? So you're saying they want to increase through what time period?
They want to increase their staffing levels for the duration through June 24.
June of this year?
Because they think that they could provide better services for.
June of 24.
Yeah,
Oh,
24,
next
yeah.
year.
Got it.
Quick question. So we had talked about it originally when we were looking at this contract, knowing staffing, most of us are not able to staff full-time right now. We have constant openings. In this new contract, did we get language that in the event that they weren't able to fulfill the staffing needs, that they would then move that money back out?
Yeah,
So we
that's-
wouldn't owe it. I mean, I want to make sure that's actually in
Gail
there.
Anderson and those guys, but yes, it's gonna be in there.
Okay.
So it's not the budget or the cost that Mike is showing is as if they are fully staffed. If they aren't, there is a variable cost to this, based on the staffing.
I wanted to make sure, just
Yep.
knowing that they haven't been
Call out.
fully staffed, I think it's important for you guys to know that it might not be that full value if they can't stay staffed.
Yeah, and that's why I asked them for a staffing analysis and give me the breakdown over the years of service to see how many vacancies to full-time FTEs we had looking for those jobs. So they've had some challenges in the past with nurses, just like everywhere else, trying to get them hired. That resulted in overtime for the contract. They're working overtime for that part of it. They do cover all the shifts, so we don't go a shift without having a medical, person on site, so.
And when we were managing the healthcare in the jail, and we were having challenges in terms of being able to get staff.
Right.
If we had a shift that did not have staff, that created some financial liability for us at the county, and that's one of the reasons why we said, let's get out of the business of trying to providing medical when it's really tough to recruit for us. They guaranteed that they would staff it, and so that's why we shifted that not only that responsibility to them, but we also unloaded the responsibility and the liability that we had, because we could not, believe it or not, there are not a lot of people out there in the medical industry that says, I want to work for a jail.
Yeah.
And we're like at the bottom of the ladder, if not underneath the ladder. So having them work for NAFCare was a better alternative than us continuing to try and do what we were doing.
And I would agree to that currently. So I wasn't here for that, but knowing how difficult it is for us to even recruit and retain the couple of RNs that we have in juvenile, I can't imagine the difficulty we would face in the adult detention centers.
Yeah, it's a rough job.
Yeah. We work for the jail with Sacred Heart or VA. We're just competing as much as we could. We did incentives for it. We tried that as well, and it just didn't net us what we needed, so.
Well, and you're trying to provide medical attention to somebody that doesn't want to be there. And if they're high or, and have some other kind of impairment, that just made it much more difficult to try and provide medical treatment. And so it was a real nightmare. Anyway, Scott.
Mike, for Commissioner Waldron and Commissioner Jordan's benefit, could you share a little bit of an overview of what NAFCare services are incorporated in that contract at our jail?
Yeah, so they provide, I have a breakdown of it, I'll tell you. They provide both medical and mental health services to us. Break it down. They've got a health services administrator, director of nursing, an administrative assistant, a medical director, an MPPA, a pharmacy tech, registered nurse, licensed practice nurses, and there's varied amount of these folks that are, like for instance, on registered nurse, there's 12.5, but they're going to increase that as well. And then psychiatrist, psych NP and PA, psych RN, dentist, dentist assistant, and medical assistants. And then they have some administrative help as well. So the wide range of services that they provide. And like I said, on the in-custody death, to Steve Bartel's point earlier, it was an enormous settlement, 26 million. So I think that's kind of the impetus of us having to up our cost. That's what's that.
Is this a contract that's being renewed?
The end date on this one is June 24th, or June 2024, I keep saying that. So we've renewed it twice so far.
And they have the ability, Mike, to request rate adjustments within the contract terms, is that right?
Yeah,
That's what's triggered this.
And that's accurate. They also have an escalator in there too.
So they're asking for this.
Yeah.
So it's not a new contract, it's just
No.
it's allowed in the current.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an increase in the contract.
Yeah, Ashley.
Also, and again, just the recruiting and the retention side, while I think the $26 million claim definitely impacted us, it's important to highlight we're paying nurses a lot more, medical practitioners a lot more in the community in general now than we used to in the past with the labor market. So while I can't specifically say that's probably what's driving this, if I had to assume, knowing what everybody around me is doing in the medical community right now, they're likely having to offer sign-on bonuses, retention bonuses, similar things to what many of our local hospitals are doing right now, because those are their direct competitors. And so I would assume that that is also tied to the wage increases that everyone's seeing.
I think COVID had a little effect on it because of the shot mandates, and they had some employee challenges during that period of time too. So
I was just gonna say, so are you gonna have something coming forward for us to look at in writing?
Yes.
Then in the next couple of weeks, you're just kind of giving us a heads up.
I'm giving you, it's gonna be on is it on the consent agenda for next week, right?
Yeah, that would be there it is that goes on.
Yeah, so I'll have something to you before that.
Yeah, sorry, I don't keep all the numbers in my head, but it'll be written down to review. Okay.
Chris?
When was the change to NavCare made? 26?
December 2017.
When was that settlement?
That was in July of this year.
And Commissioner, just so that's clear, that was actually a verdict, not a settlement.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so 3-4 years in the court system. So, yeah. So you don't really know what that second shoe is gonna sound like for 3 or 4 years, and then you go, oh dear God. So a lot of this is about preventative decision-making as opposed to responsive stuff. So any other comments, questions?
I would just throw out there too, if we were gonna consider going out to try to beat the contract or better price. I don't know that we can, but there's only a few of these kind of medical services in the industry. So you're kind of stealing right now. I already talked, too late, Dale, I already talked about it.
So when we went out to bid on this the initial time, refresh my memory, did we have 2 companies?
We had
that
2
applied?
companies that were interested.
Yeah, and so NavCare was the best out of the 2 that we ended up going with and stuff. But, we did a national search for companies to provide this service, and all we got was 2.
So 19 American Jail Association conferences on the American Corrections Association, and there's only a few of them in the market that do it. So I anticipate the same would apply for it if we went out for RFP again.
And I don't know if Mike mentioned this, but given the $26 million verdict that was entered last year, we felt that the improved staffing levels with the full-time medical director and the psych staff would be highly beneficial to us in the event of a subsequent claim, to establish that we've made significant changes to address the shortcomings in staffing that was apparently a major consideration by the jury in that Hill case.
Was that
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Was that a judgment against the county?
Primarily it was against NavCare. The county did end up with almost $300,000 allocated to it. Luckily, I think we dodged a bullet substantially in that case, though. There's really, the jury could have gone either way. We could have been on the tail for that, this happened potentially.
So just to clarify, it's an additional cost, not for the current level of service. It's an additional cost with additional staffing with it.
And
Okay, so this isn't just you're gonna keep getting the same level, we're just gonna charge you more. They are gonna add on additional elements, additional staff. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
There was an additional insurance amount as well that was incorporated in that as well because of the burden as well. So, yeah, mostly though, it's just staffing.
And like I said, it's an increase of 354,000, and going through and just looking at the staffing, what applied to mental health services, what applied to medical. We identified 505,000 that could have come out of mental health sales tax, rather than all of it tapping the general fund, and that would net us about 150,000 to the general fund. It took me early, I don't know what to tell you.
So is there currently the mental health sales tax being used to help pay for this contract?
When they set this contract up, they didn't identify the use of the mental health sales tax. That was something that I initiated because it has an appropriate use for, that's what it's for. And that's.
So that's gonna come forward, you're gonna provide the information about the increased staffing, the increased costs, and then how we would pay for it
Sure.
as part of the proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear, this has been included in the budget, in the 23 budget already, so.
Yeah.
Okay, Scott?
It is built in, so
And
we
Mike-
have the cost covered.
But with what funding source?
General fund for most of it and $500,000 from mental health sales tax.
Scott?
Mike, we have some mental health professionals also with the jail that are county staff.
Their county staff.
We currently have some mental health sales tax that is being used to support those operations in the jail. I don't know the number off the top of my head unless you know it.
I think it's
800?
No, I don't know the dollar figure. I'm talking about the mental health professionals that work for the county.
Yeah. So mental health sales tax does pay for those individuals there right now.
And that's on top of this group.
Yeah. Our facility's one of the only licensed mental health facilities in the state. It's, they're actually for crisis intervention on the beginning part of it. So we have a great staff of mental health professionals at work and then one director over it.
Okay.
And yeah, when we go on a tour, we'll show you all the different areas of it. So
I'd like to join that tour.
you're, come on.
Any other questions? Okay, so that gets us to miscellaneous matters. Anybody have any miscellaneous matters?
Consume enough of your time this morning.
Anything at all?
Yes, that actually is why.
Oh, it's just.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll bring chocolate tomorrow. She all saw the governor's proposed transportation budget that defunded, or shouldn't say defunded, but stopped the north-south freeway funding for multiple years. There's a House Transportation Committee meeting on Thursday, this coming Thursday at 4 p.m. I've been texting back and forth with Eric Polson and GSI. They're looking to get a large contingency together to testify in opposition of the governor's recommendation. So they were asking if any of the commissioners might be available Thursday at 4 p.m. You can testify remotely. Nadine plans to testify, as well as Brian, Michelle Zahegi out of GSI, possibly the mayor of Deer Park. Sounds like Bingle is a maybe. So those are the people I'm aware of right now. Even if you can't testify, they're looking for a lot of people to sign in with concerns to show a large contingency that would like to see the funding continue for the north-south corridor.
believe this is in your district. And
Um,
do you know these folks?
Yes,
Yes.
well, what's the political, I mean, you know, the governor puts a lot of things in and out of the budget. What's the read on this? Does it have any legs at all? I mean, I'm just wondering how much time we need to put into it, or if our legislators are going to maintain, likely to maintain the funding.
The legislators of the quotes I read, the best one from my perspective, well, this is only a recommendation. So all three of the third district legislators are clearly opposed to it. But as you all know, in the world of politics, having a large group at your back helps. And so showing joint opposition couldn't hurt, especially when you can call it in literally on this one. We all want to be able to say the county is probably okay with it.
Well, and you would probably have more gravitas with the folks there that can make a decision than me or Josh, so.
Yeah, I think as long as I can make it work on my
Representative Fay is known for letting electeds testify first, so you shouldn't have too long of a wait.
So, you've got Senator Elias and Fay, depending on how you like to pronounce his name.
Right, Tacoma, right?
Yeah, and stuff, so they're the lead in the House and Senate with regard to transportation and stuff. I interact with both of them through CRAB, and so I will have my opportunity to talk with them through both CRAB and TIB. But since this is they're having a hearing on it.
Correct.
And stuff, and so this would be a great opportunity to add more voices to that.
Yeah, why don't you put my name down, and if something comes up, I'll let you know, but it looks like my calendar's open, and,
Eric Polson's taking lead, so I'll let him know.
yeah, just let Eric know, and that'll be good practice, zooming in
There
to
you go.
Olympia.
Life is good. Anything else for the good of the cause? Okay, so it is 3:17. We've completed all the board business come before the board, so we are adjourned.